Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to the Bronze Man Morytania locked account. This is my Bronze Man locked away, obviously, in the lovely, glorious swamps of Morytania. Currently chilling in Canifis. So, we have a bit of a snowflake account challenge. Alright? Our goals are fairly simple, but they are quite bountiful. And it's going to be sort of a reliving a little bit of the Swampletics life. And in doing so, we're going to have a few things in which to achieve with the challenge. So, my Swampletics expired, Morytania and Raids locked, Bronze Man mode, chunk account challenge. Tried to say that 5 times fast. Shit's a disaster. But first, the rules. Gear will have few, if any, restrictions in place. This is to be fair to the clan that will be assisting me in raid attempts and various PVM challenges that are group-only content. This way, there's a minimal requirement for any carries due to being substantially under-geared or issues of that leading to a lack of DPS and general participation, especially since the raids require points in order to get loot. And we have to green log raids, which means we have to get enough points for loot. So, no gear restrictions based on what I currently have banked. And then also to make use of all the progress the account's gone through already. Now, rule number 2, the areas that we are locked to for training and skilling are within Morytania. And we're allowed to use Prif Dennis, right? We may also touch the Myths Guild Bextorian Falls for barbarian fishing specifically, Fossil Island for birdhouse runs specifically, Berthorpe in case there's any need to Tyrael skip for Slayer. More on Slayer specific training later. And then obviously, like I said, Prif Dennis. We're allowing Prif Dennis due to my use of crystal armor and Bova, especially in raids and things occasionally. And it's the only place that I can use a singing bowl to repair the armor, so I have to allow it, as well as it is my hub for most teleports, right? Because I use an eternal teleport crystal, and my house is in Prif Dennis. So in order to access my house and not burn through a ton of runes that are very hard to farm when you're locked away in Morytania, we use the eternal teleport crystal to Prif, and we can do any and all of the skilling within Prif Dennis if we have to. If there's a way to do it in Morytania, then what we do is any skilling allowed in Prif Dennis has to be something you can do inside of Morytania, right? And then the same will also go for any use of Nightmare Zone points to re-imbue jewelry if it's lost during combat. We have access to the GE because we're a Bronze Man, right? Bronze Man being just like an Iron Man, I have to get all drops through playing the game. I have to green log bosses. I have to get everything like an Iron Man would, but it unlocks being traded only on the GE once I've received it as a drop. I can't directly trade with other players, and I won't be picking things up off the ground from other players. Trying to keep the account as pure to an Iron Man-like stand that a Bronze Man can be. Then we're also keeping some of Varrock unlocked because it's my only access to the Colosseum, which I have to do in order to get the Quiver drop. as one of the PVM locked goals, right? Berthorpe, of course, is there for the Grommel's hilt upgrades for the combat achievement diaries. And that's generally the areas we're going to use. I'll explain more in the map here in a little bit. Like I said, as a bronze man, you're allowed to GE trade anything you get as a drop, so that's the only reason we're accessing the GE. And it is, like I said, locked to drops that are banked or received live during gameplay. Raids and PVM bossing areas are allowed to the bare minimum chunks, as well as any chunks outside of Morytania have to be kept to the bare minimum chunks that we can teleport to. In addition, chunks may be unlocked through the chunk unlock process, as stated soon. Chunk unlocks are allowed for each individual step complete in the achievement diary, combat achievements, and unique drop logs from PVM activities, i.e. a Barrows piece, Scythe, Justicar, Inquisitors, Missouri, etc. from all the raids and other bosses, and that can also complete the standard chunk ban tasks for a chunk in order to unlock another chunk. We can only unlock a chunk adjacent to previously unlocked chunks, or a chunk we can teleport to. We may unlock multiple chunks at once, as there will be some unlocked chunks now at the beginning of the challenge that I will show you here in just a moment, from completing up to all of the Morytania hard diaries, as well as a couple Barrows uniques earned during the testing phases, since I started the challenge officially. And like I said, so there will be a few chunks in areas not in Morytania that we can teleport to for things not connected to the standard unlock chunk process so far. And as an example, the Remington home teleport chunk, as well as like Lumbridge, because I have a few friends that have started playing Runescape with me, and occasionally, since they're brand new, they need help, and I have to meet them in Lumbridge or the GE, right? Now again, for teleportation chunks, I must keep the minimum amount of chunks available for the teleportation chunk to be reached for whatever activity I have to reach nearby. Like the farming guild will be unlocked, so I have to be able to access it through either the skills necklace, as well as I'm keeping the chunks unlocked to get to Konar in the fairy ring right next to that chunk. And speaking of, so you can see we have Morytania. Mostly Harmless is a part of that. We have Fossil Island. And like I said, what we have unlocked here is effectively just to do the birdhouse runs for passive hunter XP, as well as really just the farm bird's nest for Cerebrus, because it's the simply most effective way to do so outside of trying to get 200 million woodcutting XP. Like I said in Varrock, Edgeville is my death respawn point, so if I die, that chunk's unlocked, right? But we'll also use that to access the GE, which we've done the required diaries, and this is other things. I will do diaries and other things in other chunks in order to get to the final unlock, having to unlock the whole region the hard way, and then when I have my final unlock piece, like Shallow Village and Karumja, for instance, I'll have, well, since I only need that for Slayer, that's the only chunk I'm allowed to keep in Karumja. The rest of them have to be sacrificed, right? So I'm keeping this stuff open right here because if I have to train thieving, The Sorcerer's Garden for Squirking is the only way I'm going to really do that outside of Pref. Lumbridge, like I said before, because I have a couple of friends that have started playing with me, they're free to play, and it's only fair that I keep a couple of those areas commonly unlocked. And Remington, because they sometimes use my house. And like I said, Shallow Village for the Slayer Master, Duradel. That's the Slayer Master I typically use because I get more Morytania-based tasks out of him. And as I'm speaking about it, we'll go into account exceptions at this point here. So Slayer is the only skill I'm going to ever train outside of Morytania itself, besides using Morytania available training spots. Like, I can use Morytania's allotment patches. So in the Farming Guild in Prifdinnis, I'm allowed to use those farming patches just to sort of speed up the rate that I can train farming, since I can't really do trees and things outside of those areas. So I'll also be using the Weiss herb patch, since it's disease free, and the Trollheim teleport to get to God Wars, as well as the disease free patch. So we have 3 herb patches, 3 allotment patches, and 3 tree patches unlocked for farming, and that's it. That's as fancy as farming's gonna get. So farming outside of Morytania and Slayer outside of Morytania. And those are effectively only there because they kind of need to be. Now, moving forward here, full access to my Playaround house, and any of the unlocked chunks teleportations are allowed. And I'm allowed to train construction with whatever methods I currently already have unlocked. For the skill chunks that I do have unlocked, right? So, as you can see on the map here, I'm allowed to do whatever skilling is available in those areas. For instance, I'm allowed to do barbarian fishing because I have these chunks unlocked. Right? Now, since we've covered the chunks and exceptions, the end goal for the Morytania area and the end game for the PVM part of it. I'll be green logging all bosses within the Morytania region, including Barrows, Nightmare, the Theater of Blood, and Araxor. I'll be green logging the Morytania Achievement Diary from Easy all the way to Elite. I will be attempting to complete at once an actual completion for the Swamplotics challenge of doing the Theater of Blood and Morytania only gear. And then green logging it with whatever my available gear is and starting items for completing a raid afterwards, right? So my basic supplies, Morytania only gear, and doing that in a 4-man round like he did. So we'll do that once, and then after we've completed that, and everyone in the raid, just like his, will have to be in the same gear with the same unlocks available. We'll then be using my best available raid gear and setups, and everyone else won't be restricted in order to green log tub after the fact. And then there is my next quest, if you will, is also to complete the rest of the PVM chunk goals, which are going to include the Chambers of Zarek, the Tombs of Amasket. We're going to do Serachnis as just one of the easy bosses around here, right? because it is a easy teleport. Since I have the Zarek's talisman in my house, I'm allowed to use it to go do Sriracha. Although I don't use the spirit tree patch here at all. We basically just go here to go to the 4th Host dungeon to kill Sriracha. I'll have to do the God Wars dungeon, including Nex, the Phantom Muspa, right? I'll also be doing Zora and Vorkath, and then I'll have to get the Dazana's Quiver from the Colosseum, and eventually the final challenge for this account, using only what I can prepare within the Morytania region, to then go get my Inferno Cape. So that is the general setup for the account. We're going to be doing all the skilling and things available in the Morytania region. We're going to be doing money making and everything only in the Morytania region. And anything outside of Morytania has to be done in the same fashion that is available within Morytania. Farming being one of the exceptions, because I do need to still train farming to a certain degree, but I'll need the stuff for summer pies, since I don't want to do hunter for lunky implings and dragon implings and whatnot, in order to get decent food for raids. And then I also will need the extra herb patches in order to be a full-time dad, full-time career, full-time husband, and still be able to make reasonable progress within the game. Because of that, it's just going to take time. So I'm allowing farming and Slayer to be outside of Morytania because I can't quite bring myself to do 30 to 50,000 temple treks to get 92 Slayer in order to go unlock a Raxor to then go green log a Raxor. It's just gonna take too damn long. So Slayer and farming are the only skills allowed to be trained outside of Morytania at this point. And now just go over the map real quick. As you can see, like I said, we have Fossil Island. We have what I like to call the Rune Dragon Island for when I, occasionally get to do Slayer. We basically never touch Harmony, and it's an extra allotment patch and herb patch. So since that's technically a part of Morytania, that's another place I'll be doing things, but I never remember that it exists, so here we are. And like I said, Birthwarp's there because this is the only place to go get your combat achievements. We have the walking path into the Troll Stronghold as well as the Trollheim teleport. Typically, I just use the teleport, go hit my herb patch, go do God Wars from there. Relica is open for the fairy ring as well as the loot, or I guess the leer would be more correct. And I only use Relica to access the Vorkath area, since there is no teleport there, so I have to use Relica. And since I have to green log Vorkath, as well as I have to green log the former Money Snake and Zulrah, right? That leaves fairy rings open that I have access to. I have all of Prifdinnis, including this chunk, where I can hunt red Chinchompas, but really it's just there for if I need to use Prif's agility course. Because sometimes I do that to grind crystals to repair my armor. Like I said, the minimum necessary, right? Because I use the Zarek's talisman for the glade to get to Sriracha. I have the Great Korend teleport as well as the Zarek's hard access. So I can teleport here to go into the Catacombs of Korend if I have to for Slayer. Every 10th task I do Konar, so we're keeping Konar open in the easy way there. We're going to do some farming in here, mostly just the allotment patch. And like I said, the tree. Obviously, we use the Zarek's talisman to get to the chambers of Zarek, right? And then, of course, I like the Myths Guild for when we have to do cooking, because having a bank chest at literally a single tile away from a stove is the most efficient way to do cooking. And like I said, I have a lot of real life things to do on a regular basis, so I can't be a full-time content creator. So anything that can add some efficiency to the daily grind is unbelievably necessary. And then I can't seem to get the regular Watchtower thing done, so I end up always having to go to here, run over to Nightmare Zone to re-imbue things. We technically end up needing just these 3 tiles available, but most of the poison waste you can't do anything in, so we just open the poison waste to get to Zulrah. Well, actually, no, because this tile and this tile there, so we end up just adding this guy in for the sake of fuck it, because we can. But yeah, so Zulrah's open. Like I said, I can do barbarian fishing to train a little agility along with the endless fishing grind, although most of the time I train it right here on sharks in Morytania. But if I choose to do barbarian fishing, it is available. And then obviously the gnome area is unlocked because it is the only one of 3 tree patches I have. The Gnome Stronghold tree patch, the Farming Guild tree patch, oops, and then the Varrock Castle tree patch. Those are the only 3 tree patches I use. The herb patches are the Weiss disease-free one, the Troll Stronghold disease-free one, and then right here in Morytania itself by Port Phasmatis. That's the only other herb patch I tend to use because I keep forgetting Harmony is a part of the Morytania area technically. So yeah, I like my swamp, so I stick to the swamp one for the non-disease free. So since that falls under farming, farming's allowed to be trained outside of Morytania, so I choose to use those 3 patches for trees, those 3 patches for herbs, and then hardwood trees are all in Fossil Island right next to each other. So I do my teak trees or whatever I'm farming for extra tree run goodness once every 3 days, which realistically I do a farm in a week because I suck. So I do the hardwood trees there, and my birdhouse runs mostly for bird's nest because it's the only real consistent way to get bird's nest to make Cerebrus, right? Yes, I can technically buy Cerebrus with gold, but ain't nobody got billions to spend on raids all the time. So when you can farm out materials for free, you absolutely do it that way. Or especially if you can do it for really cheap versus buying brews at 10 to 20k a piece. So that's the gist of the challenge. That is the gist of what we're doing. And that's the general explanation for everything. Like I said, I can't be fucked to do 30,000 to 50,000 temple tracks for 92 Slayer. To do a Raxor, I'm level 80. I still have a long way to go. So you're going to see also Since this is recorded later in, I do have an official episode made, but it wasn't really well done. So, the current stats for a few episodes into the challenge, as you can see, we've got some 90s in skills now that are non-combat. Total level's been updated for a little bit, and we're kind of starting the challenge in earnest from here. And then there'll be some of the streams for stuff past the start, right? Like when I have an interesting Slayer task in Morytania, I'll show it. If I have right now, I'm probably going to stream soon where I'm doing Barrows runs because I have a clan event going. And Barrows is kind of on one of our clan bingo boards to do, so guess what I do? And then whenever there's bossing to be done, I stream that. Or sometimes I'll do a just chatting stream where I'm just skilling for 3.5 straight hours. And occasionally, that's what we do around here. I don't stream all the time because cutting logs is about as interesting as watching paint dry in real life. Thus, I don't really stream that content too much. Although, if I get some requests to do so, I may start doing it. So feel free to reach out to me at any of my social links. There's a Discord server of mine. It's called Short Grind Gaming. That is going to be where you're going to find all the information for the challenge. That's where you're going to be able to contact me the easiest. I do have a YouTube channel that's posted in there as well. My Twitch link is also in that Discord. So we will go ahead and put that right here live in the recording, assuming that my monitor quits being dumb. But right here are the links to everything. Feel free to take a pause and screenshot the goodies right there. You got the absolute legends for the dudes. VIPs, the people that buy me a cup of coffee, make any donations or whatever, they have their own rank in there too. And then obviously, if you want to reach me, this is the place to do it. I respond on a daily basis and it's open almost 24/7. So if I'm awake, I'll get a message. Either way, it's been a pleasure seeing all of you today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And as always, take care of yourself, hug a loved one, and we'll get back to you in the next stream.